If there's a book that you want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. Toni Morrison. You also recently, you launched your first single and you started a record label.
Yeah.
What can't she do?
Yeah. So basically, the further and further I get into the music industry, the more walls I come up against, and I'm like, okay, I guess I need to do this myself too.
So you feel like you're doing these things out of pure necessity. Well,
yeah, pretty much.
Hello, and welcome to Artists Like Us, where we explore the creative journeys of those you might pass by every day, your neighbor, your coworker, your best friend. We're here to shine a light on the artists among us, the ones balancing their passions with the sometimes pleasant and often harsh realities of life. I'm your host, Janita Richards, and together we'll dive into the stories, struggles, and successes of the creative souls who may not be household names, but who make our world more vibrant. So let's discover the artistry that surrounds us with the artists like us. And today, the artist like us that I have is Kelsey, aka DJ Hipster. Hello, Kelsey. Which would you prefer today? Do you want me to call you Kelsey or DJ or Hipster?
You can call me Hipster so that, if anyone's listening, they know they can look me up and find me.
All right, yeah, we'll hammer that in. Okay, Hipster. So when we initially met, you were still going by Kelsey, and what's funny, we met in Vietnam, but the first time I met you, our circles had not overlapped, and you were seeing a friend of mine super casually, and I was like, okay, this girl. I don't mean to like at this on super casually, but I just mean like
yeah, I know what you mean.
Okay.
That's so funny. Honestly, I forgot that that's how we met.
That was our first introduction to each other.
Yeah.
But then we came together in a more meaningful and actual way when we both joined For the Girls with Maggie, our DJ godmother, grandmother, mother, auntie. I don't know what she would want to be called, but we're thinking of you. And
yes.
That was super fun and awesome, and I am so impressed that you have really taken that DJ stuff and gone with it. I have my controller right next to me, and I always look at it and like I want to get back into it. I really do, but there's just so much on my plate. I did come to the idea though recently that I would get back into it if I had someone to do it with me. Like if I could be part of a duo, that would be dope. Like, I would share the weight. Yeah. I'd put that into the universe, so whoever wants to be my DJ duo, they can know.
That's how I feel about DJing weddings. I hate doing it alone.
Yeah, are you doing a lot of weddings?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that.
I can imagine. I mean, the wedding industry, it doesn't sound like many people who do weddings like to do weddings, whether it's photography, flowers, venues, catering. I'll find that really stressful.
Yeah, it's just a big day, it's a lot of pressure on everything. But I've been lucky. The couples that I've worked with have been super nice, thankfully. And I want to keep it that way. I don't want to do a wedding with like an unhappy couple.
Yeah.
I'll quit while I'm ahead,
Always leave them wanting more. So when we met in Vietnam, you were, like many of us, including myself, teaching English. But unlike many of us, that's actually what you do. Like you are a teacher there. And when you came back to the States, you also started teaching again in schools, right?
Yes, that's right.
And what were you teaching Spanish, right?
No, I was teaching English as a second language.
Here in the States too?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I worked at a charter school.
I hear so much about charter schools, and I never actually know what a charter school is. I just pretend and say, oh my God, it's so crazy.
Yeah, totally get that. And it's really interesting because, so basically, like, public schools are state funded, there's no tuition fees. Private schools are not state funded, it's all tuition fees. And charter schools they're like the middle ground. I think most charter schools don't charge a tuition. I could be wrong, but they also, so basically charter schools receive state funding, but they also like don't have to follow all of the public school rules, I guess, or like, you know, it's not as rigid in that aspect. So yeah, charter schools are like really really interesting. It can There are a lot of different kinds of charter schools, and they can go all different sorts of directions.
And can you give me a bit of a timeline? So you come back to the States, and I want to know a bit of you're starting teaching in the school, then you decide you want to DJ again, and then you're doing DJing part time, and then when you decided I actually want to do DJing full time and drop the teacher part of my multi hyphenate.
Yeah. So I moved to Austin, Texas in September 2021, and I started teaching full time, and also wanting to DJ. But being a new person in Austin, I didn't just come to Austin and start getting DJ gigs. I had to network and meet people first and build, connections, and that took like at least a few months. And that was also when I started feeling like, oh, I want a similar community to Pho the Girls that I had in Vietnam. And so I was looking for something similar in Austin, a feminine community of DJs, and I couldn't really find it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still teaching full time. And then July 2022, I officially started Babe Badass Bitches Elevating, is what that stands for. Can I curse on here? Is that okay?
Yeah, we are not sponsored by anyone, so we can actually do whatever we want.
Woo! Yay!
Wait, I
But
also had
yeah,
no idea that's what it stood for. That's amazing.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I just wanted a fun, cute acronym, and that's what came to me.
That's super
um,
cute.
yeah, so July 2022, I started Babe, and I started by making an Instagram page and just finding flyers with DJs and basically researching each DJ and figuring out, like, okay, where are the female DJs? Where are the non binary DJs? And promoting their events on this page and like making a hub for that. And I also started giving DJ lessons, since teaching is something that I'm pretty good at, I think, and I have a lot of experience in. So, yeah, so Babe started July 2022, and I continued teaching full time, and then basically my DJ career in Austin started ramping up. I started getting gigs, started doing all sorts of projects with Babe, including the teaching, including event promotion, and eventually throwing events. So, actually, the first event I threw in Austin was for Lunar New Year.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So in Vietnam, you already know, but maybe your listeners don't know, but Lunar New Year is a big deal in Vietnam. So that was uh, January or 2023, I think.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to keep it all together. But
No, it's
yeah,
fine. Timelines are very hard. I wasn't even
yeah.
expecting you to give me exact years, just more of the linearness of it.
But yeah, eventually it just became like so much where I was like, I can't be spending 40 plus hours a week at this school and also doing all the things that I want to do with Babe and with my DJing. And so the summer of, well, yeah, basically the last summer, so I guess summer of 2023, I quit my job teaching. I wanted to go part time, but they wouldn't let me do that. So I was like, all right, bye.
I love that you made that decision for yourself. I want to now poke into your timeline a little and transport you back to some of these times. When you had started teaching and you decided that you wanted to go out and network because you didn't know anybody in Austin, I would love to hear almost exactly how you did that, because I think that's something that's really hard for people, especially in, I mean, it's hard for people anywhere to make friends, network, and in any industry, but especially in nightlife, and especially being a teacher, which is something that feels very, very different from nightlife. Um,
Yeah.
how did you approach that? What was your, I don't know if you had a very specific strategy, but if you could dive into that.
Yeah. So I think I started on Facebook and just finding groups for like electronic music in Austin, EDM Austin, DJs in Austin, those kind of groups. And then, just putting myself out there on there, like, hey, I'm Kelsey. I just moved here. I'm a DJ. I'm looking like, are there some other female DJs in here? That kind of vibe. And and then I saw events and I just started going out to these events that looked like fun and seeing the DJs and, introducing myself to the DJs if it was appropriate, and that honestly goes a really long way if you like introduce yourself to a DJ, and especially if it's like their event and you're like, yeah, I came here, I had so much fun, and hopefully you did have fun,
Mhm.
be authentic. You don't have to be like fake about anything. But yeah, just introducing yourself goes a long way, I feel like, cuz people see your face and hear your name and see you supporting their event. So, that automatically makes you stick out as an attendee. Um, and really, my first time that I got to DJ in Austin was at a house party.
Ooh,
And
fun. Project X
yeah,
vibes, Project X vibes.
yeah, it was, I think it was Halloween or maybe it was New Year's. I think it was a Halloween party, and obviously it wasn't paid, it wasn't planned. It was literally just like some people that I had met, some friends I was starting to make were like, yeah, like we're gonna go hang out on the rooftop, and I was like, oh, can I DJ?
Oh,
Basically I was just like
nice.
itching to DJ somewhere so bad, and they were like, yeah, of course. And and so I went on the rooftop and slayed my set, and everybody was
A
like, whoa, that was super cool. And that I actually got booked for some more private parties at that same rooftop after that, which was dope.
That's
uh,
amazing.
yeah, so that was kind of like my entry into DJing in Austin, was literally just trying to find any opportunity to play and going for it.
I think that's a real testament of being ready for your moment when it could happen, which I think for DJs, number one is always carrying your USB on you.
Absolutely.
Don't forget that. I want to talk about you're saying going up to DJs and just saying I enjoyed your set and da 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 da. Were you mostly or primarily or only approaching female DJs?
I wasn't only approaching female DJs, but when I see female DJs, there's kind of an automatic connection there. There's like an automatic in,
Mm-hmm.
because we understand each other as female DJs, and like the struggles that come along with that. So I feel like it's easier for me to connect with female DJs. But there are some really nice male DJs that I've met out here for sure, and who have helped me start my DJ career out here.
I asked that question because there was a period when I moved back to New York and I was like, oh yeah, I could DJ again. I was going out as I like to do and kind of talking to people, still not sure, but anytime I kind of got into a conversation with a guy that was a DJ, it would be like, oh, I'm a DJ too, but then it's like, oh, so you want to kiss? And it's like, oh no, that's actually not it. That's actually not what I want at all. And I imagine that so many women DJs run into that exact same problem. So how did
For
you, if
sure.
you did, avoid it?
I mean, I it's taken me work to get to this point, but I'm at the point where I feel like I do a really good job of just giving off a vibe of like, don't don't fuck with me. Like, I'm not interested. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if I start getting that feel, I mean, like, obviously, sometimes people flirt and like, they're like, there's a line, I guess. So like, if I really start feeling uncomfortable from a male DJ, like, oh, he's really like just trying to get in my pants and that's it, like, I will just cut off the interaction immediately
Mm-hmm.
and walk away and just be like, okay, that's not a relationship worth pursuing.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I think it also it's testament to your confidence and of course maturity in being able to feel strongly about, well, I can cut this off and I know that there are still opportunities out there that will arise that are right for me.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, the way that I think about it is like, I want to be in situations where I feel good and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like authentic and I feel safe. First of all, safe.
Yeah.
And so, I don't want to attract unsafe situations. I don't want to attract situations where I'm unhappy. So I'm fine with letting go connections with people that don't feel good for me.
Safety in nightlife is major, and I think also curating a lot of female or women and non-binary DJs in Austin. How did you? I mean, you saw that that they were missing that, which almost seems surprising, considering it's 2024. That there's not someone out there gathering up all the ladies and saying, "Hey, play this." Oh my
Yeah.
goodness! Actually, I want to talk about this really quick. So a couple years ago, I was kind of seeing this guy, and every time I think about it, I like cringe because he definitely was low key a misogynist, and it's just something that you sometimes don't realize when you're in it. And he
Yeah.
would rag on women DJs in the sense like, oh, like all you have to do is be hot, da da da. And I'm like, actually, it's really hard for women to DJ, and it's because of this kind of mentality. It's like, oh well, all they have to do is be hot, da da da. Da. But it's not that easy.
No. Yeah. And yeah, it's really interesting because it's like, I mean, that's just like with gender roles. There's like a whole thing to unpack there, like beauty standards, basically. And so, like, yeah, I mean, the beauty standards are much higher for women in general, and DJing is not like exempt from that.
Mm-hmm.
And so beauty is really interesting because it's one of those things where it's like, yes, there are some advantages that come with being perceived as beautiful. But like you were saying, it doesn't outweigh any of the other like disadvantages that come along with gender bias.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything, yeah, it could lead to like being in unsafe situations because people are like, "Oh, you're just beautiful. You're just a beauty object." So, you know, who cares about your feelings or whatever?
Yeah, and it's I think it's also gathering up. I keep saying gathering up, but that's what it feels like gathering up all the ladies and creating this force. Really, it it gives. I imagine it makes them feel a lot more powerful and gives them a bit more opportunities to say no to things in situations where they do feel unsafe because they know you've got their back and all the other women and people in that organization have their back.
Yeah, and so one of our main like online hubs is a Discord server that we have. And so we have a bunch of different like channels on there, and one of our channels is called Beware,
Mm.
and it's not like, I think a lot of people can have this idea of like, oh, it's just people just complaining. It's like, that's not what it's about at all. It's literally like, if people feel unsafe in certain places or with certain promoters or venues, then they can share it on there, and in order to keep everyone safe. And so that's like a really cool resource on there that relates to what you were talking about.
And I imagine on that server, once one person says something, it's like, I actually had a weird experience with that person too, because it never happens once.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So I want to kind of go back to your timeline in teaching a little bit, and I guess talk about the end of you teaching and the beginning of you going full time DJing. So I know you asked them if you could still be part time, but besides the exhaustion of working 40 hours a week in the classroom and doing however many hours DJing, what other things were able to bring you to that point? Like, was there a dollar amount that you were consistently making that you felt, okay, I think I can make this leap now?
Yeah, I mean, I guess really it was a leap of faith, and also I was confident because I I started getting booked like every weekend. I was
Mm.
getting pretty consistent gigs, and I knew that if I if I released this time that I was giving to the school and used it on marketing myself, promoting myself, continuing to build the Babe community, continuing to build the Babe brand, I knew if I had more time for those things, then more gigs would come my way.
How else, if else, are you supplementing your income?
Yeah, so definitely DJing is a big part of my income, but I also continue teaching, but now I give DJ lessons instead of teaching English, which is way more fun.
Yeah, I can imagine. And do you find that your clientele skews mostly women who are looking to probably join Babe?
Yeah, so I work with a school here called Femrock,
Oh,
which is
cool.
super cool. Yeah, so basically, Femrock and Babe have the same missions of just getting more gender diversity in the music scene through teaching skills. And so they were looking for someone to give DJ lessons, and they found Babe and they found me, and I found them too, and it just seemed like the perfect fit. So that is the vast majority of the DJ lessons that I give are for women and non-binary folks.
And Femrock is at FEMME?
Yeah.
All right, Femrock, Austin, Texas. Everybody check
Yeah.
that out. That sounds really cool. Kind of reminds me, sounds like School of Rock vibes. Is that kind of what they're doing, except for instead of children and early learners, just women?
Yeah, yeah. So they do all sorts of things. There's guitar, bass, drum lessons, and they also have bands. So,
Ooh,
yeah, so there'll be like a Yeah Yeah Yeahs band that people can sign up for,
oh,
and
that's
they can
amazing.
take, the singing position or the drum position or whatever they want to do.
All right, I gotta get out to Austin. That sounds so fun.
Yeah, yeah, you should. Have you ever been here?
I've never been to Austin, but I'm probably gonna do Houston again for Christmas and New Year's because my nieces live out there. Maybe I'll extendo my trip and do some Austin.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Speaking of just bands and all like, fem rock and stuff, let's talk about Babe Fest.
Yes.
How did that come about? Is that something? Let's talk about what that is first. Can you explain to us Babe Fest?
Yeah. So, Babe Stock Music
Babe
Festival.
Stock.
Yes. So Babestock was America's first electronic music festival with all women and gender expansive artists in Austin,
Amazing.
Texas, this past June, 2024. Yeah, I was like, wait, what year is it?
Please don't ask me that question. I have no idea usually.
Yes, this past June. I'm the festival director. Babestock is my baby, but it only came to fruition because I had an amazing team helping me make it happen too, who also shared the vision and the mission. A team of 9 of us total made it
Nice.
happen this year. And we had an estimated 1,000 attendees, which is actually double what we were planning for our first
Woohoo.
fest. So that's super exciting. We had people coming from all over the country, including DJs. We had 36 different femme and non binary DJs and producers.
Nice.
So it was super epic. Lots of different genres. We had house, techno, drum and bass, acid, perreo music, like Latin party music. We had hip hop. We had so many different kinds of genres.
I love that. Congratulations on doubling your expectations with attendees. I feel like that. So the festival industry is really difficult. I have a friend who used to throw festivals, and so more power to you. Was
Thank you.
was Babe Stock something that when you started Babe and you were leaving teaching, is this something that was on your vision board of sorts?
You know, it wasn't in the beginning, but basically, with my experience with Babe and analyzing, you know, gender in music, I started looking at festival lineups because, I mean, festivals are huge for DJs. Like, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of DJs want to play at festivals. Um, and so I started, there's a local EDM festival here that's like kind of a big deal. They bring in a lot of big names. Um, I don't know. I'm not going to mention names on this podcast, but if you search for an electronic music festival in Austin, you will probably find it. Um, and I actually kind of got into some beef with the people who run it because I called them out on their lineup. I made a post on
Oh,
Instagram.
I
I was
saw that
like,
post.
yeah, I was like, yo, this lineup is, I think it was like 80, it was over 80% male, or maybe around 80%. And that's all I did. I just posted the stats. I didn't say anything.
Facts are
And
facts.
facts are facts. And that post, like, blew up with people on both sides. People being like, yeah, thank you for doing this. And people that were like, calling me aggressive, calling me names, and like being like, oh, like, and also coming up with excuses, being
Mm.
like, oh, there's just not enough like female DJs,
And
which,
you're like, I have them all right here, actually.
yeah. And then it's, oh, there's not enough talented femme DJs that can bring in a
Ooh.
crowd, that can fill the space. And it's like, also,
I mean, you hear it all the time when people will bring up like, "Oh, it's not that there's not enough. There's no one qualified enough." I mean, you hear that in every space that's lacking in diversity. So, not surprised that
yeah.
they hit you with that.
Yeah, yeah. And so, and people were like, if you don't like it, throw your own festival. And then I was like, you know what? That's a really good idea.
Yeah, maybe I will.
Yeah. And then I did the damn thing.
I want to talk about with this festival. Festivals are very expensive to put on, and oftentimes it's a loss. If you're comfortable talking about that, how did you and Babe make out?
Yeah. So we had our budget for the festival was very, very small compared to other festivals. I think we ended up spending like 20K on the fest.
Okay.
And we actually got a grant from the city of Austin, the Live Music Event Fund. And so that was a huge, I mean, that made the festival possible.
Mm.
And then it was also donation based. Um, and so yeah, that's another cool thing about Babe Stock is it was free, donation based. We wanted it to be as accessible as possible for everyone. And it was really, really high quality for like how small of a budget we had and worked with. And it was kind of another leap of faith as well. Like in the community, and yeah, we ended up in the green. We ended up
Nice.
being able to save some money for this year's festival and pay out our organizers. Not enough, honestly, for all the work that went into it,
Mm.
but we were in the green, so I'm really proud of that for our first festival.
And I was gonna say that's how Afropunk started. I don't know if you know Afropunk. It's this music festival in New York, and it was started, as you can imagine, because of the name Afro to highlight Black people in
Yeah.
rock and roll punk spaces. And it's gotten really big now. It's huge. I went 1 year and I saw Grace Jones and Lauren Hill, and she was late. In case you wondered,
That's epic. That's awesome.
it was super dope. So I'm really excited about Babe Stock. And is
Yeah.
it happening next year? Do we think?
Yes. So we're planning Babe Stock in June 2025 in Austin, Texas again. I don't know exactly where yet, but it's going to be, I mean, I can only foresee it being even bigger than last year. Um, Lots of talented artists from all over the country. And yeah, it's gonna be really awesome. If anyone wants more information, or if they want to sign up for like an email list and stay up to date with all the Babe Stock happenings, people can go to babestockfest.com, or follow on Instagram at babestockfest, if people want to stay up to date and make sure that they get their tickets.
Yes, because next year will be here sooner than you know it. It always is.
Yes,
Um,
yes. Janita, you got to come down.
I know, I will. I've got to figure out a lot for next year, but it's all gonna
Yeah,
happen. I
yeah.
feel really good about everything. Um,
Yay.
I'm wondering how. So, of course, doubling expected attendance is one measure of success, but how do you, in throwing a festival, measure success in terms of did people have a good time and will people come back next year?
Yeah, so there are many things that made me feel like Babe Stock was a success. So yeah, like the number of attendees is one thing, but also like people just had such a good time, and I kept hearing feedback from people at the festival, like, wow, the music is so good, and
Um,
this is such a nice vibe, this is such a nice community, and I'm having such a good time. And also DJs and the performers were saying how good of a time they were having, which was important to me. And because that's another like goal that I have for Babe Stock, is being like a meeting hub for femme and non-binary DJs,
mm,
like in the whole country, to come together and network. And because I mean, most DJs want to play in other places too, right?
yeah.
So, like, if we can all come together and connect, then, we're only stronger together, and we have more resources together to follow our dreams.
This is making me want to start DJing again so bad. I want to play Babe Stock.
Yes.
I'm feeling
Yes.
inspired.
Oh, yay. That makes me so happy. Okay, so there's another measure of success right there.
From someone who didn't even go.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what the attendee list was like. Were there men there? Did they
Yes.
show up to support the ladies?
Yes. So, yeah, also, I want to clarify that anyone of any gender is welcome to attend Babe Stock. And yeah, we did have men come through. We had the allies pull up, and they had just as good of a time as all the ladies, for sure. Yeah, I mean, definitely, like, we had a lot of women at the festival, and, it was designed for them. So, fair enough. But see, that's the thing is, like, even though we designed it for women and queer folks, and it was designed by women as well, so that's another huge accomplishment of Babe Stock. Is our whole team is our well our team is a little bit different now, but our whole team for this first one was a group of women, and
Mm.
that's also, like, kind of unheard of, like a whole team of women putting on a festival.
I think it's a really big misconception when people hear this space is it's an event like for POC or for queer people or for women. They think it's only that, but that's not the case at all. It's just this is an event or a program or whatever that we want to highlight these people who aren't highlighted in other spaces where they're saying, oh, well, there aren't enough women DJs. Actually, there aren't enough qualified women DJs.
Yeah, and what I learned was when you build spaces for, you know, these communities that are, at best underserved and at worst in danger.
Mm,
When you build spaces for these communities, it makes it better for everyone.
yeah.
So, a festival that's fun and safe for women is also fun and safe for men.
No, it's totally true. And you're just like when you're creating that space of just love and care and where people are free to be themselves. That's so important. 2 years ago, I went to a music festival called Honcho Campout. I don't know if you've heard of it. It happens in Pennsylvania. It's so
No.
amazing. You will love it. It's primarily for queer people, and it's a multi-day festival. It's in the woods. It's so small, and I lost my phone first day there because we got there really late. I lost my phone like a dingus, and luckily the friend that I was with, actually, do you remember Aaron from Vietnam?
Wait,
My
which Aaron?
bestie, light skinned. It was always me and him on the dance floor.
Oh, vaguely. Yes,
Oh,
vaguely.
well, he and I went with Wisam. You remember Wisam, owner of Savage?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So little Vietnam crew, we go. I lose my phone like first day out there, and Aaron had it on Find My Phone. I was just like, I honestly felt so comfortable. I was like, well, I think it'll come to me. Like it's so small. I feel like I love everyone here, and I feel like everyone here loves me. So I think it's good. And then I wake up in the morning. I'm like, I guess I'll give it like a good look. I pick up Aaron's phone. We go to an area. I turn to this group. I'm like, did anyone here find a phone? They all cheer. They're like, oh my goodness, we were gonna bring it to Lost and Found, but we thought we'd wait because you might show up. And they had my phone. I was like, this is amazing.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, and at like a like Gov Ball or something, huge Coachella, no chance I would have found that phone, right? Absolutely not. It would have been off for parts right now. And similarly, I yesterday I met up with someone else that I went to Honcho with, and he was visiting on the East Coast. And he was telling me that he went to Sustain Release, which is a small music festival over here, where you basically tickets are on an invite list. Like you have to like know someone, so it's all friends of friends and friends and friends of friends of friends. And so I was asking him, how is that? And he's like, it was basically the same thing. He said it was so good. It just felt like such a good community. You felt like everyone, even if you didn't know someone there, you just felt like everyone there has your back, and you're just creating this beautiful space where everyone feels included and loved and supported and also safe to have a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool that you brought up these other festivals. I want to check those out for sure.
Yeah, I think that what you're talking about with Babe lines up so well with what all these other things are trying to do, these smaller things. And I think more people are interested in community, right? Everyone wants to feel connected to one another. And I think more and more people are doing it. And it's really cool to see.
Yeah, no, that's definitely, I mean, that's a huge pillar of Babe in general is community. Absolutely.
So you also recently you launched your first single and you started a record label.
Yeah.
What can't she do?
Yeah. Yeah. So, basically, the further and further I get into the music industry, the more walls I come up against. And I'm like, okay, I guess I need to do this myself too.
Hmm. So you feel like you're doing these things out of pure necessity. You're like, well, it has to
Yeah,
be
pretty
done.
much. Pretty much. Yeah. So, yeah, record labels. Yeah, that's a whole thing to unpack there too. But same type of concept, but for releasing music, I wanted to have a space highlighting and supporting and encouraging women and non-binary folks to release music, because for okay, so if you think there's not that many femme or non-binary DJs, there are way less producers.
I can imagine.
It's like, I mean, there's like the USC Annenberg study, which is a pretty famous one about the Billboard Top 100 songs, and yeah, it's like less than 5% of those songs were produced by women.
Wow.
Yeah, so Babe Records was born. You know, just like I said, promoting these underrepresented voices in the music industry, specifically electronic music, which is a super broad umbrella on purpose because, yeah, another like mission for Babe and Babe Records is creativity and exploring new things
Mm.
and trying new things and taking risks. I think a lot of women are scared to take risks more than men in general,
Mm.
because I mean, there's a few different reasons, but women tend to be judged harsher for, I don't know, mistakes that happen, or, if something doesn't work out. I think a lot of women feel like they have more to lose, or they have more people relying on them, or you know, there's lots of different factors, but um, I kind of lost my train of thought.
No, it's
Basically,
totally fine.
Babe Records encourages taking risks, exploring, sharing underground voices.
I'm remembering now that you and I took this kind of like a crash course in producing a song with Max. Do you remember that?
I do. I do.
Well,
Have
that
you
just
produced since then?
no, I learned that day that I definitely never want to be a producer, or at least it's I still feel that way. I actually was talking about this with someone the other day because I do write. I have songs in my head, like I
Yeah.
have them. I write lyrics and I can sing them, I can hum them. I've got it. I've got the melodies. I do think that I would be such a powerful musician, but I just don't want to play on the computer anymore that I already am.
Yeah, you can be the lyricist songwriter. Just
I
collab
am
with a
down with that.
producer.
I'm super down with that. I'm trying. Everyone that I'm trying. I've got melodies. I've got hooks.
Dude, producers need lyrics, they need melodies.
Okay, cool. Because yeah, I also don't. And I always thought maybe if I learned an instrument, and I think I will do these things, but just not right now. Maybe one day I will produce, but not right now.
My work in music production has been a much slower journey than with DJing.
Mm.
I feel like when I first started DJing, it was like a fire lit, and I was just like, "Woo! All right, this is all I care about. I'm just doing this all the time," and like growing pretty rapidly.
Hmm.
Whereas with music production, it was more of like, oh, I mean, I've been dipping my toes in music production like honestly my whole life.
Hmm.
Like I remember being a kid and like messing around in Fruity Loops, uh, and making little things, and but it was more of a, it was slow to catch, I guess. So yeah, so there's nothing wrong with, dipping your toes and then being like, maybe later.
Yeah, I wonder if also it makes sense to me that when you started DJing, it kind of caught fire and took off for you because producing is creating from zero. Really, when you are DJing, you kind of have a lighter, right? You have a lighter and you have the candle, and you can go off and put it together. But when you are producing, when you are creating a song from scratch, you have to gather the ember, or I don't, how do you make a fire? See, I don't know for camping, but you have to
The
gather the
Tinder.
flint and all that stuff. Yeah, and then you have to go and rub the sticks together, and sometimes it's going to spark, sometimes it's going to not, sometimes there's just going to be smoke. And so it's also creating something just from zero is very emotional and it's very personal. It's something so different, I feel, than DJing.
Absolutely, completely different skills. Yeah, they're completely different for sure. Yeah, and like when I'm producing, so I don't know if you know the artist's way.
Yes, that's so funny. I was just talking about the artist way at work because I finished this journal. I
Ooh,
started it in June. I finished this journal and I started a big journal. So that's what
nice.
I'm doing, my 3 pages. And so I'm stepping it
Yay.
up.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
also on my bookshelf somewhere too.
ooh, yeah.
It doesn't matter, but yeah.
Yeah, so that's definitely been like a very influential book for me and my music production and my creativity, in the sense that like, I think of myself as a vessel, just letting something flow through me and seeing what happens, as opposed to like, okay, I'm gonna make a house track. It's gonna be like this, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I have made music that way before, and come up with some cool stuff too. But yeah, I find that just kind of releasing and following my intuition and what feels right, what feels good, regardless of whatever genre I think I should be making. That is very rewarding for me, and I come up with some cool stuff and some creative stuff.
Yeah, and you get to just flex a totally different muscle and express yourself in a completely different way. It's really raw. It's very brave.
Thank you. Yeah,
I'm
but
curious.
yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
um, but yeah, like it's kind of interesting because the music that I produce isn't necessarily like the same kind of music that I DJ. And so yeah, so it's really interesting because I'll be DJing like house and like partying, and then I made my track Daddy, which is very much like 107 BPM, down tempo, like just relaxing,
Hmm.
end of the day, end of the night vibes, kind of sexy.
I mean, maybe you're producing that because you don't play that, and that's kind of filling a different gap in what you feel your ears need to hear.
Whoa. You just blew my mind. I didn't even think about it that way.
You're like, oh, I need the chill one here now.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
I am curious to know more about what it means to start your own record label. Besides, I mean, I don't even know. I just have no idea.
Yeah, so I mean, at its most basic level, a record label distributes music. And nowadays, I mean, you just work with a distributor. So some famous distributors are like Distro Kids, CD
Mm-hmm.
Baby, but there are tons of them out there. And so yeah, what we did with Babe Records, so we had a compilation album with
Saw that.
yeah, with 11 different femme and non-binary producers from Austin, which is huge. Because as I said, like less than 5% of producers like are women. But anyways, so basically what we did, and with my teammate, her name's Ava. Her DJ name is Mea Culpa.
Shout out Mea
She is
Culpa.
super talented when it comes to producing, mixing, mastering, and she has so much knowledge. She's been doing it forever. So I couldn't have asked for a better teammate for Babe Records. So yeah, basically we just, put it out there like who wants to be on the compilation album. And this was a lot of people's first releases too, but also some people who have been releasing and producing already. And so we held some sessions for people to get like feedback on their tracks, and we really wanted to make it like a community feeling of community and support and encouragement, because like you said, it can be scary and personal, putting your music out there. And so yeah, basically the whole process was just gathering the artists, giving deadlines. And then I made the album art, which also we did a photo shoot for. So it definitely was a whole process. And then we just worked with a distributor to get it out on Spotify and Apple and Amazon and all the places.
I love to hear that you had sessions for giving people feedback on their tracks, because so many times as artists you submit to things or you put things out there that people are asking for, and you get excuse me, you get rejected, but you have no idea why. You don't know what you can improve on, or and maybe it also was nothing that you could improve on, and just there were other people who fit that bill a bit more, and it can just leave you in the dark and you don't know what to do. And of course rejection is like it happens in life, but I think it happens twice as much, maybe three times as much to the artist.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and so that's another thing with running a record label is like, so yes, there's the like technical distribution aspect of things, but then there's also the marketing aspect of things, and trying to get tracks onto playlists and get press releases, get it out into blogs, and there's all that aspect that I've been learning a lot about. Basically, everything that I've started and I've been doing has just been coming from a place of passion and enthusiasm and not knowing anything
I love that.
and learning a lot along the way.
I mean, it makes total sense. I feel in a very similar mindset to you, in that I'm very like, fuck it, we ball. Like, let's just do it. Like,
I
I
mean,
haven't figured it out, but let's just do it.
like when you feel compelled to do something, like, and maybe you're like me where I look around and I'm like, all right, is there anyone who can like take my hand and guide me through this and mentor me and lead me? And in my case, it's like, no, not really. So I'm like, all right, let's do it.
You just gotta just go forth, right? And then you mess up, you learn, and that's fine. It's okay to mess up. I mean, you're going to mess
Yes.
up. It's actually inevitable, so deal with it.
Yes, for sure. Yes, inevitable.
I'm wondering. So something that I don't even know why I want to add this, but I'm just something that I didn't know, but I found out fairly recently is that when you think of like a record label, you think about artists being signed to a record label, but I didn't realize that you could also just have a song, like a song could be signed to a record label.
Yeah. Yeah. And, that's something that I want to learn more about and put more energy into with Babe Records is artist development and that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. So that's one of my goals that's on the horizon. But yes, you're right. You can just have a song with a record label and not necessarily be like a part of the crew, I guess, for
Part of the
lack of a
crew.
better word.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Um, I've said a few times during this conversation, you've brought up something, and I'm like, I saw that, and that's because your social media game is super on point.
Oh,
I mean, it must be if I'm seeing it. I'm acting like I don't go online. I do go online, but I see it and I notice things, and I open them, I click the links, and I just wonder how you do it because social media is something that when I'm thinking about this podcast and how I want to release it, that is something that I'm like, that's the bane of all of this. Like, that's what I don't want to do.
yeah. Social media is a beast. And yeah, I mean, I've honestly been doing most of it myself. Although with Babe Stock, I did have someone helping me with Babe Stock's Instagram last year. And we'll have a social media manager for this year too. Um, but yeah, really, just something is better than nothing. That's really the
Mm,
only advice that I think I can give is like, just get something out there. And you'll learn along the way, like, oh, this post did really well. And I wonder why. And this post didn't really get that many likes or comments or whatever you're trying to get. So, yeah, and timing is super important as well.
mm,
So, something that I do with Instagram specifically is if you have a business account, which I recommend for you, um, then you can have insights and you can see like what times and what days you have a lot of followers online. And so that's a good time to post things. And yeah, they're just like some little tricks that you can try. Basically, if you can get people to comment or to share your post or your reel or whatever, it's going to get more traction the more interactions that it has.
mm.
And yeah, I don't know if you have any other like specific questions about social media.
Mostly, I was actually just wondering is how you have the energy for it because I've done social media for companies before, so I do now know some of the technicalities. I don't even know if they still have auto posters. It's more just how do you protect your brain?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And yeah, I guess when I find, I mean, it's been a labor for sure,
Hmm.
especially in the beginning. I was putting a lot of time into social media, and now, I mean, I just try and take care of myself and listen
Hmm.
to myself. So if I'm feeling really like anxious and I'm like, okay, maybe I just can't do social media today. I just can't get this post out today. And like,
Hmm.
it is what it is, you know, but I'll get it out tomorrow or whatever. And yeah, it's hard. I'm not going to lie, it's hard. And it's not my favorite part of this at all.
You said the word business, and so I want to ask you this very important question. Do you have an LLC?
Yes, so Babe Stock is an LLC, but Babe is a sole proprietorship right now.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And
my goal is for Babe to be a nonprofit.
okay.
Yeah, but that is a whole project unto itself.
Could you give me some of what goes into making something a nonprofit as opposed to an LLC or a sole proprietorship?
Yeah, so I mean, I am not a business expert by any
Hmm.
means, and this
No, you're a
is,
DJ.
yeah, these kinds of things are like the stuff that I really don't like. I hate like legal stuff and all of that. But yeah, basically, there, and it's different with different states. Texas, I think, is a pretty easy state to like start a business in for some reason. But yeah, for an LLC, it's just paperwork, and also the sole proprietorship. It's just sending in like paperwork saying, this is the name of the business, this is who like is the beneficiary of the business, this is like, social security numbers, EIN numbers. But for a nonprofit, it's a little more complicated because, you know, they aren't taxed, or you can apply for tax exemption. So the government wants to know more about like what's happening, of course. And so, for example, honestly, the big obstacle right now is for a nonprofit, you need a board of people who cannot be paid by the nonprofit. So they can't like
Mm.
get a salary, but they have to do like really important work of
What's defined
like
as really important work?
basically the board of directors, like, so for a nonprofit you can have the executive director and then the board of directors, and this was actually how the charter school worked that I worked at too. And so the board of directors basically is like they're the boss of the executive director. So like they can hire and fire the executive director, and it's basically like a checks and balances type of system. But yeah, so basically I need to find people that would be passionate about the mission and the vision, but also like and have to do meetings and do all these like bureaucratic things and like not receive any compensation for any of their time or work as well.
I do think that you will find that just in
Yeah.
due time, when it's
Yes.
supposed to happen, it will happen.
Oh, thank you.
And it makes sense that Babe Stock would be an LLC because that is a festival that is immediately asking for money and then generating money. But I'm wondering, when you what would be the word, became a sole proprietorship with Babe,
Yeah.
how did you know that you were ready to take that step with that?
Um, I think I was just worried about tax stuff, and I was like, yeah, I'm trying to think of like what was the turning point where I was like, okay, this I need to like make this a real business. Maybe it was, I think it was after a year. After Babe had been operating for a year, then and we started like throwing our own parties more and getting more income. I needed a business bank account because I wanted to pay people.
Mm,
So at that point, in order to get a business bank account, I had to have something called a DBA,
mm.
doing business as. And so that was the official start of the sole proprietorship.
So it came less of foresight and more from necessity, and that these things just
Yes.
now need to happen.
Yes, exactly. It was like, oh, in order for this thing to happen, this thing needs to happen.
I mean,
Okay.
that sounds like your whole entire journey, no? It's just like, well, this,
Yeah,
I have
pretty,
to do this now.
that's
DJ lessons, um, encouraging community in Austin for female and non-binary DJs, Babe Stock, record label, producing. It's a lot.
yeah.
Since all these things are, of course, taking up so much of your time, I kind of want to go through them, like list by list. Where do you see hipster as a DJ long term, like that venture? What's the future of that looking like right now?
So I so that's tied in with my music production.
Mm,
I want to continue releasing my own music, and I want to tour around the US and or the world and
yeah.
play in all these different places, and share my music and share my message, everything that I'm all about. Continue just making connections with people that are creative and kind and also care about the same things that I do, and enjoy the same type of music that I do.
Mm.
Yeah, so really my focus with Hipster right now is producing, releasing, and touring. That's my goal.
Nice. Let's get her international.
Yes.
And Babe, the community. Where do we see that?
I see that continuing to grow in numbers, but also just connections deepening. And I mean, I'm seeing it happening right now where I see other babes like coming up. I see them playing out more. I see them throwing
Oh,
events.
that's
I see
awesome.
them um, releasing music. And so basically the community is just coming up and we're just having we're just gonna have more resources, um, more of what we want.
Yeah. It's you must feel so proud seeing your babe ease doing
Oh
all
my
that
gosh,
stuff.
I have taught so many people how to DJ. Like
That's amazing.
every time at every babe event, it's like, oh yeah, that's my student right there.
That's my kid. That's my kid. That's my
Yes.
kid. You're
Yeah.
basically Nicki
Isn't
Minaj.
she
All these
dope? That's
bitches,
my
that's my
girl.
son. And then Babe Stock. How many people are attending next year? We did 1,000. Can we get to 5,000?
Oh, that's a good goal. I'm shooting for 2,000 this year.
Hmm.
That's my personal goal.
Okay. I think that you will hit that goal.
Hey.
Well, I mean, I guess as we're winding down, do you have any words of advice to anybody who'd be listening who are just maybe thinking about how to make what they're doing something that feels more like a business, or taking the leap from full-time job to full-time doing whatever I want? Because you're not just an artist, you are a businesswoman now, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. I was literally just writing in my journal the other day. I was like, I'm an entrepreneur. Like,
Yeah,
I can't believe that. That's really like strange to me.
major.
Yeah, yeah.
But also it's out of necessity.
Yes, exactly. Entrepreneur out of necessity. Um, and yeah, if anyone listening to this feels that necessity, then you have to do it.
Yeah. That's it.
No, but any words of advice? I mean, like, yeah, it's scary letting go of financial stability. And I understand that. And, obviously, we got to do what we got to do sometimes. If nobody wants to not have food in their belly or not have a roof over their head.
Hmm.
So, we all have basic needs that we have to care for. But I think a lot of people don't realize that those needs can be taken care of and you can also like enjoy your life and you don't have to give all of your time to a company that you don't care about and that probably doesn't care about you.
Hmm.
um, and also for me personally, I just like living a simple type of life. People have different lifestyles that they want to live. So for me, I prefer, I'm not in the nicest, a nice big house. I mean, actually, it's kind of not true. I am in a big house.
Hmm.
It's pretty old. It needs some TLC. It's
It's
not
got
like the
charm.
fanciest thing, but I have time now. I think a lot of people don't realize that you get financial stability, maybe you get like a good amount of money for what you're doing, but you're also giving a lot of your time, and there is a whole economy around convenience and around that relies on people being too tired after work to make a healthy nice meal for themselves. They're too tired, they have to go get fast food or get takeout, which is more expensive and, probably not as healthy as you like making your own food. And, you're too tired. All you want to do is like, I don't know, play video games or go watch a movie, or, there's a whole economy around this concept of people's time being consumed and
Yeah.
needing convenience. So yeah, I just think like don't be afraid to explore like time as a currency as well.
Mm. It's so real. Living in New York, I know that very, very well. That me being tired is also draining my bank account.
Yeah, and that's something that I noticed when I stopped teaching is like, oh, now I'm not having to commute, every morning and every evening. I'm not having to worry about food, like ordering Uber Eats really quick to work because I only have 30 minutes for lunch and I didn't have time to make something last night. And, that costs like $30 or
Mm.
something. And like, yeah, with the more time, I'm also spending less money on things too.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much, Kelsey, DJ Hipster, for your time. This conversation has been great. You are the multi hyphenate. I'm super proud of you. And
Thank
you're
you.
doing very cool things. And I will see you in Austin.
Yes, come to Austin. Thank you so much for having me on your show. This is so cool.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for sitting down with artists like us. I'm Janita Richards, and I want you to be inspired by the life that's lived by you, because of you, and all around you. Are you our next guest? Submit yourself or a friend at cabbagehouse.xyz/artistslikeus. If you're feeling up to it, leave the show a review and share it with your friends. It means a lot. Stay sweet, sexy, silly, and inspired. I'll see you here next time with another guest just as interesting as the last. Hey, you might even know them. Ciao for now.